Okay, so if you're watching this video at some point in your life, you've been like, Dylan, why won't you play this multiplayer game with me? And today, we're going to attempt to answer that question for you. So, the first key premise to understand here is that Dylan does not like playing competitive multiplayer games casually. Now, this is a very key premise to understand. So, you can play these games as casually as you want, but Dylan, when playing competitive multiplayer games, does not like to play said games casually. Okay, so if we follow this premise logically, we can come to this graph. Now, this is going to be a graph of Dylan's skill in a particular competitive multiplayer game in red versus a person who plays that game a lot, their skill is going to be in blue. Now, if we talk about a game, let's say Destiny 2, for instance. Now, Dylan, his skill's pretty low. He doesn't play Destiny. He's not a big Destiny player. Now, maybe he's played some FPSs, so his skill's a little bit higher, but overall, his skill, it's not very high in Destiny 2. Okay. But someone that plays Destiny 2 a lot, they might have started out where Dylan was when the game first launched, which is why I like playing newer games. But now their skill is much, much higher than Dylan's, which means Dylan, as a competitive player, is not really going to enjoy getting the shit kicked out of him by these Destiny 2 tryhards. Okay, that makes sense, Dylan. But Dylan, there are games that you've played before that you still won't play with me right now, and let me explain that to you. So let's talk about a game like PUBG, for instance. Now, Dylan's skill in PUBG at one point was probably, pretty mediocre. Dylan might have been okay at PUBG. He's been playing some BRs. He knows how to run his route in PUBG, get some loot, kill some people. But Dylan's skill is leveled off. And if we think about someone that has been playing PUBG for a long, long time, their skill is still much above Dylan's. And we still have a large skill gap. Now, Dylan might want to play PUBG sometimes because the skill gap might be a little bit manageable compared to some other games, but he's still going to be hesitant because if he just played the game at launch, the skill gap is much smaller, which is why I like playing newer competitive multiplayer games generally. But it depends on this gap here. For smaller gaps, I might be more willing to come back to the game. Now, in the future, before you ask Dylan, why won't you play this game with me? Refer to this video and make sure your question isn't answered here. Thank you for listening.